I'm inside Visual Studio. This happens to be the Enterprise Edition with a few bells and whistles added to it. But when you're in the Community Edition, the same features as I'm going to use right now are available to you very, very closely. You know, the interface looks very much similar. You may see different news stories, obviously, because they're time sensitive. But I'm going to create what's called a WPF application. So the WPF stands for Windows Presentation Foundation. And we get one by doing File, New, Project. Now, there are other ways to do it. You can do one there. You can do new stuff by linking from the menu here. And we go into the Visual C#. That's really important. We go Windows Desktop. And we choose WPF App.NET Framework. That's what we're trying to build. So we're going to call this application that we're going to use Motoring, because you know that that's what it is from the What We Will Build video. So I now browse to my location. And I'm going to call it Motoring. I've chosen my location and I click OK. Now, creating a WPF is quite a big framework, so depending on the speed of your machine, it may take a little while to do it. So it's now opening up my application, and it will take a while once again to build the things that it needs to build. And you'll see that we have various ways of looking at the interface, and we'll just talk about those in a minute. So it's creating the main window, and that's the XAML that you can see below in the bottom window. And I think the XAML will become something that we will really have to focus on when we get to discussing the application that we will build. Having said what we already said, the advantages should be very clear to you about why we have chosen XAML rather than using a Forms application, because I think it offers a lot of advantages and leads you towards what we're building every day in industry. Industry is very fond of markup languages because of the flexibility in the resolution of displays, the layout of displays, the responsive builds. All sorts of things are used with markup languages, and not just in Visual Studio. In mobile application development, XAML represents the type of window design that you might use with HTML. So there it is. It's built our application. Now, I think this way of looking at it doesn't give me enough space in the code area, because we're not going to use any of the toolbox features. We're going to build all of our controls from scratch. So I prefer to work by clicking here the vertical split, and I think that gives me a better representation of what we're going to do. We're going to change the layout of this anyway, and that'll be in the next video, I think. But you can zoom it to fit all. You know, you can do all the sorts of things to do it, but this gives us a much bigger working area for our code, and therefore makes it much easier to see everything at once, or certainly large proportions of the code that you're going to be building. So that's how you create a WPF application. Now, in here, just let's look at architecture a little bit. We have a properties folder. We have a references folder that's built in by default. We don't have to do anything in this application, I don't think. App config. You'll see that config gives us the .NET version, so that's really important. App XAML. That's the lead into the application. The app XAML.cs. Nothing in there really at the moment. And main window we've seen before. That's the main window, and that's the references to all of the WPF schemas. These, although they say HTTP, they're just a pathway to the schema there, and it's inside the application rather than going out to the internet. So you don't need the internet to get at these schemas. Local is the namespace, and ignorable is what we would work with in test. So if we mark anything within the namespace D, it becomes ignored at compile. So each page or window that we say is going to have a CS file behind it. In here, you can see there's an awful lot of unused references to system facilities and build directives, but we'll tidy those up before we release our application. But that's the main architecture. That's what it looks like out of the box. We can still navigate through all of these pages up here. We really don't need many open, and it can actually lead to confusion if you don't close them down as you're working with them. So that's building a WPF app.